make sure you have some money, right? Because you can't steal a wedding from someone, right? You always have to make sure you have the finances. So, Dalene, introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about yourself and where my audience can find you today.
Yes, Dalene Higgins with Elevate Finances. I am a financial coach, particularly for Gen Xers, but I won't turn anybody away. You can find me on Instagram at Elevate Finances, or you can join my Facebook group as All Things Personal Finance. I love to answer people's questions. I love to talk about money. So yeah, that's what I do.
Perfect. So money is like a hot topic, at least here in Canada, because a lot of people are struggling. Inflation is impacting so many people, and it's tough out there because the money, $100 last year is not necessarily $100 this year, right? Because of the taxes and inflation. So how do you help others understand the power that they have within their dollar and how to make sure that they have a dollar, not only for today, but also for tomorrow?
Yes. Inflation is, my daughter even said to me, Mom, I was spending $50 a week. Now I'm spending 75. And I said, that's just what happens. So you hope to have some savings that you're not investing for times when inflation happens, because then you can divert it right into your budget for the week, for your groceries, we know as inflation impacts one area, it's going to hit another, right? So we've seen it hit the groceries. It's going to hit employees are going to have to be paid more, which means corporations are going to have to charge more. I know that like insurance right now on auto and home, people are seeing those rates increase, and they really have not increased over many, many years, but they're finally feeling that push to have to do that. And that's just the rising cost of living. So another term people may be familiar with is lifestyle creep. As you work, right, you hopefully get a raise or you make more money if you're an entrepreneur, that you are trying to save equally to, yes, you need more to spend, but don't spend it all. Save it. And it will help protect you in times like these inflations. And if you haven't done that, I'm sorry, but you are at a tough spot. And it's really hard, but you really have to start determining what you truly value. And what I mean by that is the things that you have to have, you have to have a roof over your head, you have to have 3 square meals a day. But beyond that, what do you value? What do you value least? And you can get rid of. And sometimes once you look at it that way, you're like, oh yeah, that was fun for the time. I really don't need that. And even if it's $10 a month, you're going to see it and it's going to help. And you just kind of go through that process of internally realizing what you truly value.
There's a running joke here in Canada that our Deputy Prime Minister, Chrystia Freeland, she said that she understands that there's a struggle that I myself may be going through, you, Dalene, and many others when it comes to the rise in groceries, the rise in gas, the rise in all these things. And she turned around, she said, I understand your pain. One of the things that I did is I canceled Disney Plus. Disney Plus is like $20 a month. That was her big suggestion for a lot of these families. And people kind of looked at her as like, you're supposed to represent us. And it showed how out of touch many of our leaders, elected officials, right, are when it comes to the struggles of the middle class, because in many societies, the middle class is the bulk of the people, right? Like people who make over 100,000, depending on their state or their province or their country, that's probably 10% or less, 300,000, 5, so on and so forth, right?
Right.
But the people who make, let's say, between 40,000 and 60,000, that's the majority of people that maybe look like me, that look like you, that look like people that are listening. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that I did was I had to understand finances, meaning that if I get paid X amount, what is my fixed liabilities? My mortgage, my rent, groceries, things that you touched on, right? Things you need to survive. And what things can I cut? They're variable, right? The Netflix, the Disney Plus, the Friday nights at the club. Well, Fridays and Saturdays for those who are ambitious.
Yeah.
The baller weekends, right? So when you're speaking to your clients and those that you help, is it tough to make them understand that, hey, what are your needs versus what are your wants financially?
I have had pretty good success. A recent client, he came to me with quite a bit of debt equal to what he was earning in the year. And he's like, do I file bankruptcy? And I'm like, no, 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 no. This is still such a small amount, and I want to preserve you. Bankruptcy can really wreck you. And that's a whole nother topic. But for him, I did the value thing. So we talked about, we'd laid out everything. And that's the thing I do is I lay out the numbers. We look at it. I kind of show them, here are the things that you have to have. If you're driving to work, you have to have a car. You have to have fuel for it, right? So those are even things that you have to have. Some people might say, well, you don't have to have as nice as a car. Well, you know what? That's neither here nor there. You have to have a car to get to work. And so I worked through things like that. So he had a list of several fun activities that he was paying for. He had children as well. So keep those in mind. But as we were discussing through something, I am like, you've got to cut back. I said, but I need you to choose one thing that provides value to you, that is fun for you, and that you are not going to give up. And he says, I have to have my Apple Music. And I said, okay, then understandably, everything else can go and you're happy. And he says, yes, it is my mental. So, some of those extras, like we usually can tie into one thing that provides us a mental health positive, right? And so I think that's so important, because to be able to just live with, quote, our liabilities being paid, right? Our bills, and then nothing more, that can be very, very difficult. So, at least striving for one thing. And that's why I say, reach inside, think about what you truly value. What is making you happy every day? What is making, maybe it's family. We do this together as family time, so I don't want to let this go, and just start evaluating all of those things. So the latte factor, I don't know if you've heard of that, and that's huge. It's like you have to give that up to be wealthy. That's not my motto. I believe you could, if you want, you keep lattes, but you're going to give up something else. So it's a, trade for a trade kind of thing until you fit to where you're building. And I always like to then, you've got to look down the road. You've got to find yourself in 20 years being more happy than you are now, in a sense, right? Because you're hopefully creating that freedom for yourself. I love to use the analogy of a new driver. So think about the 16-year-old learning to drive from the parent, right? And you're riding with them, they're doing well, but they are only seeing maybe half a block in front of them, and a block and a half, you can see the red light. You can see the cars stopping, and they're still going, and they're still going. And you're like, okay, you've got to look further. And that's the same with your money. You've got to look ahead. Like, what is that you want to create? So
That's one thing that I had to do for myself as well, because the last, let's say, 3 years for a lot of people was very isolated. We're locked away in our homes in some places, right? We couldn't go anywhere. If I were to see my good friend Dalene down the street, I wouldn't even give her a high five, let alone a hug. I'll just wave from across the street, right? We're afraid. We're afraid of a lot of things.
Yeah.
And one thing that I did this year is I said, Terrain, it's good that you're working hard, that you're paying your bills, and you make sure that there's food on your table. But are you enjoying your life, or are you just working to pay off debt and to save, save, save? And then when you pass away, you don't have any memories, right?
Yeah.
So what I did is every month I said, I'm going to go somewhere. Even if it's just to get in my car, go to the next city, or go 2 cities over, or go to, let's say, America, or go for a drive, because I realize that there's always going to be something to pay, right? But there's not going to be always an opportunity for you to enjoy your life.
Yes.
Right? But money for me and for a lot of people around me was like a sensitive topic. You don't ask me how much I make. You don't ask me what my debt is. Just you know that I'm able to finance the lifestyle that I'm presenting to you. Do you find that to be true where money, it takes some time for people to open up about their finances and become vulnerable in a way, say, Dalene, I kind of need help. Help me,
Yeah.
please.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes, very true. This last month I had 5. So I do a free call where we jump on and determine if financial coaching is right for you, right? I had 5 people sign up for a free call. I had 3 no-shows and 2 cancels. And I know why. They got really courageous in that moment to schedule that call. And as the time goes on, they got more fearful and they're like, I'm going to have to share with her what? And I'm scared to, I'm embarrassed, the shame. And honestly, as a financial coach, I don't feel those emotions for you. Those are your emotions. And yes, you need to honor them. But if you come to me and ask me for help, I do not judge you. I do not say, oh my gosh, I can't believe you got yourself in this situation. I love to help people find a positive route out. And whatever that is, and just like that client I was telling you, he came and we laid out the numbers and I was like, oh my gosh, how am I going to do this? And I'm like, who else would do this, right? I have to do this. So put my thinking cap on, let it simmer for some few days. And finally, I'm like, okay, this is what we're going to have to do. And it was successful. For 3 months, he maintained. And then the mindset shifts, because that's another thing that has to happen is getting out of his scarcity mode of, I can't make more money. I don't deserve more money. And I don't, basically, I don't know what I'm doing. And that's a scarcity in itself. And so, yeah, it's just, it is hard to be vulnerable. It is hard to talk about money. And I've been trying to promote, through social media and stuff as well. Like there are ways to talk about money without you sharing any deets, right? Any of your details. You can just say, hey, how are you handling such and such? To start building that conversation with family, friends, whoever you kind of feel comfortable with, and then it grows from there. You don't have to use all the specifics to say, I am, $100,000 in debt and I don't know how I'm getting out. Just say, hey, how are you handling, a simple thing, and just start, building that relationship and that conversation there. So
For those who are watching on Facebook, YouTube, and my social media website, please subscribe, follow, and share for more incredible interviews like the one we have with my new best, smiling friend, Dalene, and we will be back for more. So stay tuned.